This presentation is on handling collective bargaining issues. By the end of the presentation, you should be able to explore the laws that govern collective bargaining, identify the nurse manager's role, explain what is involved in the grievance process, and describe the future of nursing unions. Some of the terminology I'm going to go over here. Collective bargaining is an action taken by workers to secure better wages and better working conditions. Closed shop is a business with union membership and is required prior to employment. Open shop is a business that union membership is not required or a component of the hiring process and hiring decisions. And the right to work state is a state in which no person can be denied employment because of a membership or a non-membership in a labor union. Before governing laws were enacted, disputes between the owners and managers of companies were settled by the judiciary branch of government. During this time in American history, collective bargaining was illegal. However, today, labor laws and relations between employers and employees are enacted by Congress, the U.S. Supreme Court, and the National Labor Relations Board. The enactment of the National Labor Relations Act in 1935 allowed nurses and other employees of private for-profit healthcare institutions to be protected in their right to organize for collective bargaining purposes. And then in 1974, the provisions of the Act granted employees of voluntary, not-for-profit institutions the same rights and protections. After that, then there was the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978, which gave certain federal employees the right to organize, bargain collectively, and participate through labor organizations of their choice in deciding factors affecting their work environment. And lastly, state and local employees follow state regulations. These regulations vary from state to state since governed by state laws. In some states, employees are not allowed to strike or form any type of collective bargaining unit. In order to establish a union in any setting begins when at least 30% of eligible employees sign a card to indicate an interest in starting a union. Then the union will petition the National Labor Relations Board to employ an election. The board will then meet with the employees of the union and the employer. And then from that point, the board will determine who is eligible to participate in the union, establish that the signers are employees of the organization, and then set a date for the union election. Certification by the NLRB of a union to be the bargaining agent does not automatically mean employees have a contract. The contract is effective when the employees and the management agree on its contract. So the union representative is then designated to administer this contract. One of the roles the nurse manager is responsible for is being aware of the 5 categories of unfair labor practice described by labor law, and that is interference with the right to organize, domination, encouraging, discouraging union membership, discharging employees for giving testimony or filing charges with the NLRB, and refusal to bargain collectively. The manager is also accountable in participating in resolving grievances using the agreed upon grievance procedure, and they're classified as contract violations, violations of the federal and state laws, failure of management to meet its responsibilities, and violation of agency rules. So overall, the nurse manager may not interfere in union organizing, but may be involved in resolving grievances. So the grievance process It's a procedure that specifies a series of steps and time limits for submission or resolutions of grievances. And a grievance is defined as a formal complaint caused by misunderstandings, a lack of contract familiarness, and inadequate labor agreements. To secure a balance between the rights of employees and the rights of the public to healthcare, Congress passed a particular set of procedures to apply in the healthcare industry. Before changing or before changing or terminating a contract, one party must notify the other at least 90 days prior to the contract expiration date. If both parties cannot agree, then the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service is notified and will appoint either a mediator or a board to make any recommendations. And once 15 days has passed and there still is not an agreement, then a strike vote can be performed and a strike can be scheduled. If a strike vote is declared, then a 10-day written notice must be given to management indicating the date, the time, and place of the strike. That way it can ensure for the hospital to have adequate time to provide for the continuity of patient care. So, majority of nurses do not work under a collective bargaining agreement. However, those that do obtain higher paying salaries. The challenge in this environment is to retain high performing nurses and to help have them be more satisfied with their jobs. The future of collective bargaining for nurses is a way to influence their practice environment and ensure economic security presents both concern and promises, especially with the continued changes occurring throughout the healthcare system today. The biggest concern of the process is the separation rather than uniting the nurses. And that's between the staff nurses and those in management. So what lies ahead is uncertain and unknown. I have a video here. So what do you think? Should nurses join or form unions, or should they not? And then in closing, I have this quote: bound by paperwork, short on hands, sleep, and energy, nurses are rarely short on caring.